T-Wolves beat the Utah Jazz tonight, 119-100 with no Rudy Gobert. I got the expert, Jack Borman. He's going to help us break it all down. It's all coming up next on the Locked On Wolves POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? What's up? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself tonight, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. He's the man. Jack Borman, he's on X, at JRBorman13. And Jack, before we jump into all the action, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, buddy. Wolves coming in 3 full days of rest, man. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday after that big Clippers comeback win. Taking on the Utah Jazz tonight, who are playing on the back end of a back-to-back. So advantage Wolves in that rest department. However, speaking of rest, Rudy Gobert got the night off, which we'll dive into a little bit more here in a minute. But huge implications on the line for the Wolves tonight in the division, as you pointed out in your notes here, Jack, because the division record is the second playoff tiebreaker after the head-to-head. And with Denver and OKC in the same division, these next two games, despite how boring they might look on paper, they could be proved to be huge when it comes to like the final playoff seeding when this is all said and done. So let's jump to the game. A sloppy start all the way around. Wolves kind of looked like they hadn't played in 4 days and not really in a good way. And for the most part in this one, Jack, it was kind of a game of runs. Wolves go on a big run. Jazz go on a big one. Wolves go on a big run. On and on it went. Luckily, Mike Conley came to the rescue. Monster revenge game versus his old team. 25 points. 4 of 5 from 3, and the Wolves win their second in a row now, and the first of 2 versus Utah, 119-100. Just kick us off here, Jack. Give us your biggest takeaways from this one.
It's got to be Money Mike, man.
Money Mike.
20 season high 25 for the boy. His second game, scoring 20 points or more this season. The first one came on Tuesday against the Clippers, so 2 in a row for Mike, scoring 20 plus. And as Jim and Michael astutely pointed out in the broadcast, the Timberwolves are now 32-6 when Minnesota Mike makes at least 2 threes. They are 12-12 when the Timberwolves when Mike Conley does not make 2 threes. And this might be our new 26 plus assist number, man, of what we look at it as the barometer for the Timberwolves' success. But you talked about how this was a game of runs, and Mike Conley really, I think, changed the complete complexion of this game with a pair of back-to-back three-pointers from the right corner in that third quarter. I believe the Timberwolves, after he did that, I didn't write down exactly what they ended up going on a run after that, but man, he delivered those right on time in a huge spot for the Timberwolves. I mean, he made 3 threes in the first 4 minutes and 5 seconds of the third quarter. And those threes took the Timberwolves from down 2 to up by 4. And I don't think the Timberwolves trailed the rest of the way. So pretty big momentum shots from Mike Conley. And then in addition to his 3-point shooting, I think he did a great job of cutting off of Naz Reid and Kyle Anderson, who caught the ball at the elbows a lot in this game. And the guards did a great job of cutting for the most part. And that's something that Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been really good at. Ant has been really good at times. But you haven't seen a whole lot of it from Mike with Rudy down there in the paint. And you haven't seen a whole lot of it, or not enough of it, from Jaden McDaniels. But Jaden McDaniels also did a good job of cutting. I think, he started 0-3 or 0-4 from the floor. Got back on track a little bit with a couple of really nice cuts to just see the ball go through the net, and then made his first shot right after that. And the same thing kind of happened for Mike, where, it wasn't there for him really early on in the game. And so he just became active as a cutter, got a few buckets that way, and just made the defense think about it a little bit. And then you had Chris Finch run a set play for him right away in the second half on the first trip of the second half, and buried that 3 and kind of got the Wolves off on the right foot. And so I think an aggressive Mike Conley is a good Mike Conley. We've said that all season long. And this was a really important game for him being back in Utah. Got a really nice tribute that the guys in the arena said focused on all of his off the court stuff. And obviously that's a big part of what Mike brings, right? He's an A+ human being. And it's great to see that from him. And beyond Mike too, Naz Reid, I was really impressed with Naz in that I think we've seen Naz throughout his young career a lot of nights when he isn't scoring the ball very well. He also doesn't impact the game in a lot of other areas. And especially without Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert in this game, I don't know if it was a heightened sense of this team needs me to do everything that those guys would bring beyond scoring. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, he had a really nice fourth quarter. He had 9 points, made a couple of threes, had an and one in the fourth quarter to make the scoring night look pretty decent on paper, 22 points, but needed 18 shots to get there and missed quite a few wide open threes. But he had a season high in rebounds with 12. His previous high was 11 at his third double-double of the season. And Naz had only had one game where he had more than 5 rebounds since Karl went out. And the Timberwolves have struggled a little bit on the glass in some of these games that Karl has been out for. And so it was really good to see him get on the glass and be really impactful there. And then beyond that, I mean, you look at Naz Reid, and anytime you're getting 4 stocks at a Naz Reid, you're happy. He had 2 of the more impressive blocks we've seen from him all year. And even though Naz didn't get credit as well for more rebounds, it's a great point from Jeff. I mean, there were a lot of guys right around the basket that Naz was able to tap the ball to when he was boxing out one of Kessler or Yurtseven, 2 guys that both have probably 4 or 5 inches on him and can elevate over him for rebounds without, banging him in the back. And that was really impressive. And then the third big one for me was the way that the Timberwolves turned it around in the fast break department. I mean, they didn't score off of the Jazz's first 6 turnovers. We'll get into that a little bit later. And partly as a result, they only had 2 fast break points in the first half. They lost that battle 11-2 in the first half, and they turned around and they won it 17-2 in the second half. And even though they didn't force many turnovers in the second half, what did the Jazz finish with here turnover wise? They had 15, so they only had 4 in the second half, which is a good turnaround for them. But the Timberwolves did a great job of sprinting up the floor off of misses, especially off of missed shots from inside the arc. I think a lot of times people think that longer shots mean longer rebounds and runouts, and in some cases they can, but a lot of times it's those little bunnies that teams miss where guys end up on the floor or going for offensive rebounds that teams get runouts. And we see that with Karl Anthony Towns and Naz Reid all the time when those guys fall down on the ground or when Ant's on the ground yelling at refs, those types of things. And so Timberwolves did a great job of really creating easy offense for themselves after really struggling to create easy offense for themselves in the whole first half for the most part. And so I think that was a huge part of that turnaround for the Timberwolves and huge part of them getting all the way up to 119 points, which also an offensive rating of 119.
Huge. Yeah. What a breath of fresh air. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. That was really nice to see. Anytime, let me go back to Conley. Anytime a player comes back to his old stomping grounds where, he played so many years, he was such a pillar of the team, the community, all that. I always assume they could be in for a big night. And with Rudy out, I mean, Mr. Conley, he just took that to heart. He went beast mode tonight, as you already mentioned. Did you kind of have that feeling he had a special game in his back pocket, in the back of your mind? And I guess part 2, and I know you kind of touched on this, but how huge is it for this team when everyone else seems to be kind of struggling at times on the floor and things just look a little out of sync maybe, that Mike Conley can still have a shooting night like this and make such a positive impact offensively?
Yeah, I mean, Mike Conley's played in this league for 17 years.
Insane.
There's nothing that he has not seen in the NBA, and so he's going to be comfortable out there. Unless he's hurt, he's going to be comfortable out there pretty much no matter what. And for him to kind of know what the game needs from him, know what his teammates need from him, I think especially tonight when you see the team outside of Anthony Edwards really struggle to score in the first quarter, I think you just kind of naturally see Mike get a little bit more aggressive. And we saw that against the Clippers, right? Anthony Edwards does not play at the start of the second quarter and the start of the fourth quarter. He generally plays the entire first quarter, the entire third quarter. And Mike Conley in that Los Angeles game, the second one against the Clippers on Tuesday, was far more aggressive in those first 3 or 4 minutes of the second and fourth quarters when Ant was not out there. And So we kind of see from Mike, okay, Ant's out, I need to be more aggressive. But tonight it was really important to see him kind of take advantage of the way that that the Jazz were totally loading up on Anthony Edwards driving, and Ant had to get off the ball on the drive, and Mike was wide open for a lot of, extra pass swings to the corner and knock down corner 3-point. I think maybe 4 of his 5 were from the corners. And so it's again, the thing with Mike Conley, he only took 12 shots to get 25 points. So for him, it's not like he needs to go out there and play a bunch of ISO and create all these shots himself. It's more just being more willing to shoot when he's maybe not wide open, but just open. I think a lot of times he doesn't shoot unless he's wide open because of how many other mouths there are to feed in this offense. But I think when he's aggressive, a lot of times it goes in because when he shoots the ball more, it doesn't really impact his percentages. Which is something that's pretty rare, especially for a small guard. And the more that he can create some open shots, whether it's, driving, we saw him hit a couple of drives in that first half and get those ball fakes to get a defender up in the air. He got to the free throw line 5 times. It's just all the little things like that from Mike that he's totally capable of and really only brings it out when the team really needs it. But I think even when, Karl comes back and maybe is struggling to get acclimated again after an injury, or, Ant's struggling or Naz is struggling, Nikhil isn't giving you what you need off the bench. I think there's going to be plenty of moments here in the next month to 6 weeks where Mike is going to need to step up and score more.
Well said. Great breakdown there. Plenty more deep dive, including Ant's quietly elite game tonight. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by Prize Picks. Guys, Prize Picks is without a doubt the most fun I've had playing daily fantasy because you can win up to 100 times your money this basketball season. That means with as little as 4 correct picks, you can turn your $10 into $1,000. And it's so easy to play. I can make my picks and submit an entry in less than 60 seconds. Prize Picks also now offers Apple Pay. Quick, easy deposits into your account all season long. And here's my favorite part. With the Prize Picks reboot policy, your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. That makes Prize Picks the only daily fantasy platform around that offers you extra injury insurance to give you that extra peace of mind. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LockedOnNBA at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA for a 100% bonus match up to $100. All right, man. Anthony Edwards just broke Kevin Love's franchise season record for the most 30-point games in a season tonight. He's got 26 of them now, man. You just look at the last 5-6 weeks, though, man. I mean, how many have come in these last 5-6 weeks specifically? And really, once they kind of got past that slow, ugly start tonight, the offense started really popping off just in general. But what do you see from that department tonight? And how encouraging is it just to see them kind of continue to adjust for life after Karl Anthony Towns and obviously missing his offensive presence? But when Ant's doing the things he's been doing, man, boy, it really softens the blow, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does for sure. And I think the good news for the Timberwolves is that, the best action that they run with Anthony Edwards on the floor doesn't really involve Karl Anthony Towns all that much. It's an Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert pick and roll, or an Anthony Edwards and Naz Reid pick and roll, or an Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns pick and roll. And the fact that the Timberwolves have another big man in Naz Reid, who's a really solid screen setter, knows when to kind of ghost screens, when to set harder ones, when to slip, when to just kind of flare out to the perimeter and pop. We've seen, Naz knock down a ton of pick and pop threes with Ant since Karl went down. I think that just creates so many good looks for the Timberwolves, and for Ant to just be able to fly around screens a lot more without having to worry about Karl posting up or things like that, I think just allows him to get in a little bit easier of a rhythm. I think that obviously the downside of not having a second scorer or a go-to second scorer, I think hurts the Timberwolves as a whole more than it hurts Ant, if that makes sense. I don't really think Ant feels a whole lot of pressure right now to score the basketball, considering the way that he's been able to score, I think, without pressing. I think it's really easy to tell when a player is pressing. And I don't really think we've seen Ant press the issue all that much since Carl went down, which is obviously something that you want to see. But for Ant, I thought that he did a great job of kind of pressing the scoring button only when the team needed it, which for a number one option, playing without your two wingmen, essentially, who help create a lot of your easy offense, I thought it is a really good sign for Ant. He had a few nice pull-up threes in transition. He didn't ISO all that much. I thought he ISO'd at the right times when there was a spread floor. He had a lot of space to work. He had a mismatch. And he took really efficient shots for the most part in isolation, or shots that he's really comfortable hitting. And that was important too. And then you saw Ant in the first quarter really take control because that's when the team needed it, right? Get a lead, try to establish some offensive rhythm early. He had 12 of the team's 19 points in the first quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, he kind of took control of the game once again. He had 11 of the team's 30 pre-garbage time points in the fourth quarter. He made all 4 of his shots. 3 of them were from downtown. And he had an awesome block. I forget who he blocked, but it was a really nice help side block. And then beyond that, 10 rebounds, which is exactly what you need from Ant. Gang rebounding in a game like tonight where the Jazz have 2 centers in that rotation, and Kessler and Yurtsevin, who are giving up a lot of inches on Naz Reid. And then he had 5 assists as well and 6 stocks for Ant. For him to be a playmaker, I thought was really important. He did a great job in the first half of playing in the passing lanes. We'll get into it a little bit with some of the defensive stuff and how he's able to profit there. But again, the way that he's able to be a playmaker at the rim with blocks is great too. And then in the fourth quarter, I was really pleased with the way that Ant took the challenge regarding Colin Sexton. Sexton really got loose there at the end of the third quarter. I think had 9 points, kind of, re-injected some life into the Jazz offense after Mike hit all those threes, and they kind of got a little bit of a run going and just completely shut Sexton off in the fourth quarter, which was really impressive. And I honestly think that Anthony Edwards is the best on-ball defender on this team. It's just a matter of you kind of want to save that for spots when it's really important, and that was a really important spot where we've seen speed kind of get or create problems for both Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the dribble. And it's not a problem for Ant. He can totally explode laterally to stick with those guys. And you saw that in the fourth quarter, which was really important. And then again, Ant, four turnovers, I think, but again, I don't really think many of them were bad turnovers off the top for me. I think if anything, you'd live with a few of the turnovers if he's trying to make the right play. And I thought for the most part, Ant tonight was trying to make the right play more often than not. There were very few moments in this game where, you kind of just put your head down and you're like, Ant, man, what are you doing? Right. And that's really important. He had an awesome dime to Nickeil for that left corner 3. That was an insane assist, which was key too. And I thought he played really well with Kyle Anderson as well. I don't know if we want to get into a little slow-mo talk here.
Yeah, I mean, I know you got it in your notes. I mean, another guy who's just getting a lot more run, right? Only 4 points on the box score sheet, but ends the night with a +19 ±, which led the team, I believe. So, yeah, go ahead. Give us 30 seconds on slow-mo as well and what you saw from him tonight too.
Yeah, I mean, 1 of 6 from the floor. Looking at that first part of the box score, you're like, oh, and then you start looking more to the right, and you're like, oh, I like this. 5 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 0 turnovers. Man. Was kind of invisible at times if you weren't really watching the game all that closely, and you didn't really think, wow, this slow-mo's making an impact in this game. But he was fantastic, hitting cutters tonight. Mike, Ant, Jaden, Nickeil hit all those guys, had that incredible Euro step kick out 3 at the end of the game, which was hilarious in transition, and had a really nice weak side block that led to a run out and a layup, I believe. Had a couple of steals, and the way that he's able to be a playmaker on the defensive end of the floor to create transition opportunities for a team that really does not get out and run all that often is really important. And his outlet passing is terrific. He's more than comfortable sprint dribbling the ball up the floor, really just jog dribbling because his sprint is a jog for anyone else. But he was fantastic in this game as a playmaker. And certainly I think when you're playing Mike Conley alongside another playmaker, whether it be Anthony Edwards or Kyle Anderson, I think that really unlocks Mike as a shooter a lot more, because those two guys are drawing in some of the attention with the defense, and then he's able to knock down catch and shoot threes. I think a lot more of Mike's off the dribble or pull up threes that you see are with Rudy Gobert. And so you didn't see a whole lot of that with Naz Reid in the 2-man game. But I was really pleased with Slow-Mo, and he had a plus 19, which I believe was a team high. And it certainly felt that way when he was on the floor. He was great. I thought that, he probably should have played a little bit more than the 31 minutes that he played to insulate Luka Garza defensively a little bit. Mm-hmm. But, overall with the defense, I was really pleased. They held the Jazz to shoot just 6 of 23 or 6 of 26 from 3, 23%. And they did a great job keeping guards out of the paint, especially in that first half. And they swarmed him on the drive. Keontae George playing point guard for them now. They're the first pick of the Rudy Gobert trade that is conveyed. He had 4 turnovers and only 2 assists, and that was fantastic work. And largely because those guys were seeing 2, 3, 4 bodies in the paint. They turned it over 11 times, and that's where you saw Ant kind of rack up some of those steals and in passing lanes, which was great. And then in the second half, they didn't do quite as well when Sexton got loose there for 9 points, had 3 scores at the rim. And then you saw Yurtseven and Kessler start to score as well in pick and roll when Naz was losing guys on the roll and Garza was really losing guys on the roll. I don't think I mean, if you looked at his defensive pick and roll reps, I don't know that there was one that was where you could say, yeah, that was even okay. And so they're swarming the defense and they're swarming defense, and their ability to keep guards out of the paint was really problematic in that third quarter. But then again, that's just another reason why you got to shake Ant's hand and be grateful for his willingness to step up to the challenge of guarding a guy like Sexton in the fourth quarter and turning his water off there. So that was great. And, overall, again, really good night for the Timberwolves defense. Hold a team, obviously down 3 of their top 4 scorers and Markkanen and Clarkson and Collins. But again, you got to go out there and you got to do it. And they certainly did that tonight.
All right, stick around. We'll take a look at the bench play tonight with Luka Garza in the mix and what's happening around the Western Conference. That's all coming up right after this. All right, guys, sometimes the biggest cliches in life are cliches because they're true. One of the best cliches that always resonates with me the most is if you look good, you feel good. I always feel my best when I use Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get your own personal stylist who understands your style, your size, most importantly, your budget. And the best part is, they do all the shopping for you. That makes it, without a doubt, the easiest way to update your wardrobe closet this upcoming spring season. Personally, I'm into that laid back, relaxed, kind of casual look. We're talking hoodies, the quarter zip-ups, maybe a golf polo or 2. So my personal stylist helped me find some new trendy clothes that fit my look and feel perfectly, and help me update my closet without those long, excruciating, stressful trips to the mall. All you got to do, tell your stylist your size, style, and budget, and they take care of the rest. And my favorite part, no subscription required. You order a new box how you want it, when you want it, and if you don't like it, no problem. You just send it back on the house. Free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges. It's style that makes you feel as good as you look. Go get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. All right, time for our, Monte Morris watch, our new favorite bit, but TJ Morris as well. I know the 10-day is up, so they can run that back with another 10-day. They did, obviously, but after this point, these 10 days, they got to sign him, correct? And then how do you see that whole situation playing out? And on top of that, how did the bench look tonight? Just as a whole with Luka and company. I know you wanted to touch on that as well.
Yeah, the bench tonight was awful for the most part.
Don't sugarcoat it.
I mean,
not good.
Nickeil Alexander-Walker plays about as consistently as you can in terms of a guy with his attitude, his energy, his effort, especially in the defensive end of the floor, and did a good job guarding Keontae George and Colin Sexton for the most part when Jaden McDaniels was in foul trouble. And he's kind of his own separate category, I think, where you never really have to worry about him. But Monte Morris tonight came back in the lineup after missing the last 3 games with that hamstring injury. Was very clearly on a limited pitch count and only played 10 minutes and had just that one score on that little floater, had a turnover. You really didn't notice that he was out there all that much. He was out there in all of his minutes with another playmaker on the floor, whether it was Anthony Edwards or Mike Conley. And so Mike Conley or Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And so again, just a night where you're kind of hoping that he can work his way back in a little bit, not do too much, not re-injure anything. And certainly I don't think he did that. So certainly a plus, but again, only 10 minutes, 6 in the first half, 4 in the second half. And then for TJ Warren, just a tough game from him. He had 2 points on 1 of 7 shooting. His only score was a putback, so missed all 6 of his shots in the open floor. And then, he did have 4 rebounds and 2 assists, but again, I think the Timberwolves are have this guy here to score the basketball and grab some rebounds. And he has not been scoring the basketball well at all since his first 2 games. I think, for TJ, for him, it's, he wasn't really a great 3-point shooter the last time that we saw him in the NBA, and he hasn't been since the Timberwolves picked him up. I mean, his first 2 games here, he had 13 points on 6 of 8 shooting and made 1 of his 3 threes. But tonight, again, missed his 1 3 and then took 5 other looks that were kind of in that mid-range area or at the rim. And they just need more from him. And I understand that it's a 10-day contract, but it's kind of crazy to say, but it kind of almost feels like, in a sense, that the Timberwolves have lost that Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr. deal for Monte Morris, just in the sense that I think that they've really missed Troy Brown Jr. And I think Troy Brown Jr. is the guy that would be playing all these minutes right now. And certainly they were planning on signing TJ Warren before they found out about Cat's meniscus injury. But man, Troy Brown Jr. would be really important, because TJ Warren can't really move very well defensively at this stage. And he's paid to score the basketball, and he has not scored the basketball all that well. And trust me, I am completely empathetic to the fact that this is a new team, a 10-day contract. You don't want to be overly aggressive. But I think when you look around and you see some of the other scores that you're out there with, when Ant's not on the floor, or when Nas isn't on the floor, I think you kind of got to step up and be there. And Jeff, I completely agree. I think the trade is going to be a win for the Timberwolves, especially if they're able to bring Morris back. But it's just, a loss, I guess, right now, in the sense that you really miss Troy Brown Jr., I guess, was more my point there. But yeah, and then Garza, right? It was hard to watch the defense. I think you really got to give him credit for the way that he played offensively. He had 7 points in the fourth quarter, which were really important to get them off on the right foot, and really battled on the glass. He got his hands on a ton of balls on the offensive end of the floor, just couldn't come up with it. And Marcus Morris actually signed with the Cavaliers today, so he is not out there. But yeah, for Luka, it was really unfortunate for him on the defensive end of the floor. He got caught up in coverage when he was supposed to be playing in drop, and had guys just walk right past him and score. He really struggled to move in space at all. And there were constant defensive miscommunications. And I understand that this group of guys has not played very much together, but you've had plenty of time to watch film and be in practice and know what the defensive coverage is and know what you're playing. And when you're the big in pick and roll, whether you're up at the level of the screen or back in drop, it is very binary, especially when you're Luka Garza. You're not Rudy Gobert. You're not able to toggle all these different coverages and call out, hey, let's do this or that on the fly, and everybody's going to listen to you because you're arguably the best defensive player of all time. It's just unfortunate, because he totally has an offensive skill set that is NBA caliber, and he's totally able to impact the game on the offensive end of the floor. It's just, if he's not making shots, it's just like cataclysmically bad on some, and for more than 3 or 4 minutes. And you see Chris Finch wanting to be able to play Luka Garza more, because he's such a good dude. He works so hard. All of his teammates respect the heck out of him for it. But the defense is just such an issue that it just outweighs almost all that good. And it's really unfortunate, because I think you're happy when good things happen to good people, and opportunities come and happen for good people, and you root for them to take advantage of them. And, tonight was a night where he did enough offensively where he was a +2 in those minutes, which is a win. I think anytime he's a net zero or better than that, it's a good thing. And tonight was certainly a good thing. And if he can knock down a couple threes, I think that he's going to be able to be right around that net zero range. And for however long Rudy Gobert is going to be out, they're really going to need Luka to be a little bit better defensively than he was tonight. And the hope is that he'll be able to watch some film and get after it once again on Monday.
All right, we only got 60 seconds left, so we got to make this quick. But just a quick little preview for Game 2 now versus the Jazz. Obviously, no Gobert tonight. Do you think we'll see him now Monday night? If so, how much more confident are you in that one? If not, what needs to change? What do they got to clean up? What needs to look different?
Yeah, I don't think we'll see him on Monday. Chris Finch said pregame that he does not have a timeline for Gobert's return, and that's not a good sign. He was listed as questionable, which I guess is good, but Chris Hine of the Star Tribune was there in Utah, said range of motion and pain tolerance is still a little bit of an issue there with Gobert's rib. So sounds like he won't play on Monday, but we'll see. Timberwolves gave up 17 second chance points on 10 offensive rebounds and lost 56-46 in the paint. Obviously, those things don't happen if Rudy's in there. And so you hope that they'll be able to make up some of that with just more gang rebounding and more attention to detail on that end. And then only scored 17 points off of 16 turnovers. And it's nice to see that they scored 17 points off of the final 10 turnovers, but you'd really like to see them improve that if this young Jazz team is going to, again, sit guys in tank mode and continue to turn the ball over.
Yeah, well said, man. Wolves win their second in a row. Huge playoff seeding implications on the line tonight. 119-100. One more road game to go. We'll run it back with Game 2 in Utah Monday night before they finally head back home at the Target Center to face who else? Denver Nuggets, the reigning champ, on a back-to-back no less on Tuesday night. But tip-off Monday. That's at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, huge shout-out to everyone that joined us on the stream. You guys are the absolute best. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game, same time, same place, right here to break it all down. Quick reminder, got to go check out all of Jack's work on X at JRBorman13, and make sure you check out him and the entire crew on the Minnesota Basketball Party. That's each and every Wednesday. Sam Ekstrom hosting, Gophers legend Ron Johnson, Carol Evans, Reggie Wilson, plus Ben Beacon. You know he's always ripping it up over on the Locked On Wolves podcast each and every day as well. That'll do it for us tonight. He's Jack Borman. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Until next time, signing out.